So today we're actually finishing off from the Mahabharat series. Today's topic is Krishna's role in the Mahabharat. So I had free range to choose any verse from any scripture. So I chose this one. It's from the 3rd canto. It's a verse that, it's got the word Bharatam in it. It's the purport, and the verse translation is all about the Mahabharat and also the Vedanta Sutra and Srimad Bhagavatam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharat. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. So please repeat. The great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas is the author of all Vedic literature, of which his works, Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahabharat, are very popular readings. As stated in Bhagavatam 1.4.25, Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Mahabharat for the less intelligent class of men who take more interest in mundane topics than in philosophy of life. The Vedanta Sutra was compiled for persons already above the mundane topics, who might already have tasted the bitterness of the so-called happiness of mundane affairs. The first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa, i.e., only when one is finished the business of mundane inquiries in the marketplace of sense gratification can one make relevant inquiries regarding Brahman, the transcendence. Those persons who are busy with mundane inquiries, which fill the newspapers and other such literatures, are classified as Stri Shudra Dvijabandhus, or women, the labourer class, and unworthy sons of the higher classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya and Vaishya. Such less intelligent men cannot understand the purpose of Vedanta Sutra, although they make a show of studying the sutras in a perverted way. The real purpose of Vedanta Sutra is explained by the author himself in Srimad Bhagavatam, and anyone trying to understand Vedanta Sutra without reference to Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly misguided. Such misguided persons who are interested in the mundane affairs of philanthropic and altruistic work under the misconception of the body as the self could better take advantage of the Mahabharat, which was specifically compiled by Srila Vyasadeva for their benefit. The great author has compiled the Mahabharat in such a way that the less intelligent class of men who are more interested in mundane topics may read the Mahabharat with great relish, and in the course of such mundane happiness can also take advantage of Bhagavad Gita, the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam or the Vedanta Sutra. Srila Vyasadeva had no interest in writing a history of mundane activities other than to give less intelligent persons a chance for transcendental realization through Bhagavad Gita. Vidura's reference to the Mahabharat indicates that he had heard the Mahabharat from Vyasadeva, his real father, while he was away from home and was touring the places of pilgrimage. Munir Vivakshur Bhagavat Gunanang Sakapite Bharatam Maha Krishnaha Yasmin Rinang Gramya Sukhanuvadayar Matir Grihitanu Hare Katayam. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharat. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. Om Agyana Timarandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpa Trubhyascha Kripasindu Pyaevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, I'm grateful for the opportunity to say something today. There's been some very nice classes on Mahabharat by very qualified speakers who can speak for hours on Mahabharat and all scriptures. So It's a hard act to follow, so I'm not so well versed on the Mahabharat, but I've got half an hour, might manage it, hopefully. So this verse, I mean, it's an interesting verse from the point of view it gives the two aspects of the Mahabharat. There's a transcendental aspect, and then there's a mundane aspect. If you look at the third line, the mundane aspect is given in the third line with the term Gramya Sukha Anuvada. So anuvad means to speak, and Gramya Sukha, well, we know this word Gramya Katha means village talk. So Gramya Sukha means mundane talk. So the Mahabharat is full of mundane talk. It's philanthropy, politics, economics. It's all there in the Mahabharat, and it will attract people who have that taste. But then the Mahabharat has another aspect, the transcendental aspect, and that is given in the fourth line with the term Hareh Katayam, which means Hare Katha, Krishna Katha. So Krishna Katha is all purifying. Therefore the Mahabharat is purifying. And what is the most transcendental part of the Mahabharat? But yes, who said Bhagavad Gita? Yes, of course. I thought it was someone else. Bhagavad Gita. So the whole purpose of the Mahabharat is to bring us to Bhagavad Gita. So it's like a preaching strategy. We use it today. We call it bridge preaching, right? And bridge preaching, well, you can have different several angles on it. Some devotees are disgusted by it, right? Other devotees are like, don't be so narrow-minded. Our job is to bring people to Krishna. So we have to do whatever's necessary. So bridge preaching is not a new thing. The Mahabharat, bridge preaching. The Vedas are bridge preaching. Karma Kand and Jnana Kand. What are these? You know, we're only interested in Bhakti Kand. Srila Prabhupada uses this term, Bhakti Kand. So why we even bother with Karma Kand and Jnana Kand? Why we bother with the Vedas? Why we bother with the Mahabharat? The point is, we have to bring people. In Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Karma Kand, Jnana Kand, Kevala, Vishera Bandha, they're pots of poison. So we see the Acharyas, they have just like we today, some people criticize bridge preaching, and some people glorify it. It's always been going on. Srila Vyasadeva, he criticizes it. Now he's the author. You know, it's Kripayam Munina Kritam. He's the author of the Mahabharat. Iti Bharatamakhyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. The Muni, this verse is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Muni refers to Srila Vyasadeva. So by mercy, Kripaya Munina Kritam, he has compiled the Mahabharat. But he himself, well actually he's criticized by Narad Muni for compiling the Mahabharat. Why? Because Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhavavarjitam nashobhati jnanamalam niranjana kutah punah shashvata bhadramishvari nacharpitam yat karma apyakaranam. Narad Muni says, you have written, now he's, at this point, when Narad Muni is speaking to Srila Vyasadeva has written all the Vedic literature except for the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Narad Muni says, you have written literature it is nice karma, it is free from fruit of activity, it will take you beyond the cycle of birth and death, it will stop the cycle of karma, and you have given Shashvata Bhadramishvari Nacharpitam Karma Yatapyakaranam. The karma, or fruit of activity, it is temporary. You've given these two things in Vedic literature. That is why you're despondent. But he says, na shobhati, which means it is not good. Why? Achuta bhavavarjitam. That is insufficient description of Krishna. So actually the Mahabharat is criticized. Insufficient description of Krishna. And that is why, as devotees of Krishna, we spend our time studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Mahabharat is somewhat subsidiary, even though it's a great literature. It's great because it brings people who are mundane into the Bhagavad Gita. But at the same time, as devotees, once we've understood the purpose is simply pure devotional service, then Dharma Projita Kaitavotra, as the Srimad Bhagavatam begins, we throw it all out. So we see the Mahabharata is the bridge preaching. Actually in the Garuda Purana there's a statement, Arta Yam Brahma Sutranam, Bharatartha Vinirnayaha, Gayatri Bhasyas Rupo So, Vedartha Paribrimvita. There's 4 things that the Srimad Bhagavatam is giving. It is Arta Yam Brahma Sutranam. It is the Vedanta Sutra, the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. Bharatartha Viniraya, the essence of the Mahabharat. There's Gayatri Bhashya Ruposau, the commentary of the Gayatri. And Vedartha Paribrimita is an expansion of the Vedas. So it's a glorious literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and because it contains everything, then the Mahabharat, the Vedanta Sutra, and the Vedas, they're all somewhat subsidiary for us, and we don't spend too much time on them. But having said that, when Srila Rupa Goswami, he compiled the Nectar of Devotion, a lot of Mahabharat pastimes he included. Why? Because it's full of rasa. And also the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of rasa. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. It's full of rasa. And the Srimad Bhagavatam contains many pastimes from the Mahabharat. Like the first canto, there's the son of Drona punished. There's Krishna enters Dwarka. We have the 11th canto, the Maushala Lila, the destruction of the Yadu dynasty. What else do we have? 10th canto, there's a lot of Mahabharat pastimes. Why? Because it's full of rasa. So we should be, in our study of Mahabharat, we're not interested in the mundane aspect. We should be like the bee. Said that the Vaishnava is like the bee who takes pollen, takes honey from all the different flowers. So we should be expert at going through the scriptures and taking the essence. This is called Saragrahi. Saragrahi Vaishnav. The Vaishnav is the essence seeker and can take the rasa, take the best from everything. So Srila Rupa Goswami, he has taken the best from the Mahabharat, and he has explained rasa not only through Mahabharat, but through Srimad Bhagavatam, through Padma Purana, through Harivangsha. Harivangsha is the commentary of, or the supplement to the Mahabharat. Actually, you know there are several Mahabharats. Sanatana Goswami, in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he explains how the son of Parikshit Maharaj, Janmejaya, he heard the Mahabharat from Vaishampayana. And then he heard the Mahabharat again from Jaimini Rishi. But they weren't the same Mahabharat. He preferred Jaimini Rishi's Mahabharat because it gave the pure devotional conclusion. It put Krishna in the center as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whereas Vaishampayana's Mahabharat, Krishna is subsidiary. So what is the role of Krishna in the Mahabharat? From the point of view of Krishna, the actor, he's an actor, you know. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he's an actor who plays a role in the Mahabharat. So what is his role? It's subsidiary in the Mahabharat that we have. That was spoken by Vaishampayana. So the Pandavas, they take center stage. Krishna is the well-wisher of the Pandavas. I mean, what does Krishna do? He's protecting the Pandavas at every step. He's the well-wisher. He cannot give up the association of the Pandavas. He loves the Pandavas. He's also impartial. He's not envious of Dhritarashtra. He's not envious of Duryodhana. In fact, when he goes as the messenger, the peace messenger, he presents the case for peace, and he just lets Duryodhana make his own decision, and according to his decision, he will get his karma. Krishna is two things. In the Mahabharata, we see two aspects of Krishna. We see the impartial Krishna, and we see the partial Krishna. You know, Bhagavad Gita. It's Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, Nami Dveshu Stina Priya, Yebujanti Tumam Bhakcha Maite Te Shuchapyaham. Krishna says, I am equal to everyone. I do not envy anyone. I do not favor anyone. However, Yebujanti Tumam Bhakcha Maite Te Shuchapyaham. If you engage in devotional service, then you become my friend and I become your friend. So we see with the Pandavas, this is what's going on. But other than that, he's impartial, giving karma. So I was mentioning Sanatana Goswami. He's explaining that there are two Mahabharats. So the Mahabharata we have, it has a mundane aspect, more so than Jaimini's Mahabharata. Now I said that Harivangsha is the supplement to the Mahabharat, but the supplement to Jaimini's Mahabharat is the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So that's been very nicely presented by Srila Sanatana Goswami. So, if we consider the mundane aspect, now there's an interesting, in connection with this, there's an interesting pastime in the Madhya Lila. While Mahaprabhu is instructing Sanatana Goswami, he gave a description of the Mahabharat, and he explained to Sanatana Goswami that there are illusory stories in the Mahabharat, and he then explained those stories according to the correct understanding. Kaviraj Goswami uses the term Su Siddhanta. What is the real understanding of the Mahabharat? You see, we can get the misunderstanding, we can get the real understanding. So Mahaprabhu, he gives 4 examples of illusory stories in the Mahabharat. Does anyone know a story in the Mahabharat which is illusory? By illusory we mean it is not a spiritual pastime, it's a material pastime, and it's not eternal. Anyone know? Very good answer. Leaving the material world. Yes, it's called Krishna Antardhana, the departure of Krishna. So it appears that Krishna got shot in the foot by a hunter, Jara, and he died, and he even left the body. So this is an illusory story. Any other ones? Pardon? Gambling match. It wasn't the one mentioned. I mean, it could be. There could be aspects to it. Okay, just before Krishna leave the planet, what happened? It's discussed in the 11th canto. Yes, destruction of the Yadu dynasty. That is, it's called Maushila Lila, and that's illusory. And also another example is referred to as Kaj Avatar. In the Mahabharata, there's a description how from Narayan, he plucked 2 hairs, a white hair and a black hair. From the white hair, Balaram incarnated, and from the black hair, Krishna incarnated. That's an illusory story. It has there's a deeper meaning. It's not what you think it is. Another example, Mahishi Harana. Krishna's queens were stolen. This is an illusory story. So, this is the mundane aspect. But as I mentioned, as Vaishnavas, we're Saragrahi. We take the transcendental aspect. So, but as preparation, I thought I would study the Nectar of Devotion, because the Nectar of Devotion contains a lot of examples of the devotional conclusion and the science of rasa as given in the Mahabharata. So there are many examples. For example, if we take Krishna's qualities, so there are 64 qualities mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion. And as Rupa Goswami does throughout the Nectar of Devotion, as he's given his science of devotional service, he pulls examples from various scriptures. I mentioned the most common scripture is Srimad Bhagavatam. There are probably over 100 verses, maybe 200 quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam that demonstrate devotional or nectar of devotion, bhakti rasa. So when Rupa Goswami is describing the qualities of Krishna, he gives some examples. For example, Krishna's self-satisfied, Atmarama. So he gives the example of when Bhima killed Jarasandha. So naturally the credit goes to Krishna. You know, Bhima was fighting Jarasandha and neither of them could gain the advantage over the other. And Bhima's getting very tired. What to do? What does Krishna do? What does he do? Okay, we got a sign. We got 2 signs here. We're doing sign language. So he picks up a piece of grass and he splits it in 2. And there's a Jarasandha. The term Jarasandha means joined together by Jara. He was born in 2 parts, and a witch called Jara joined them together. So he had a weak point. So Bhima took the legs, Jarasandha, and ripped him apart. So the credit goes to Krishna. But he was happy that Bhima took the credit. Why? Because he's self-satisfied. Another example is Krishna's determined, Sudrida Vrata. So the example is given of Draupadi. When Draupadi was in danger, Krishna was able to help because Drida Vrata, he can do what he says he's going to do. He's promised, Name Bhakta Pranashyati, my devotee will never perish. So how can he protect Draupadi? He's in Dwarka. Draupadi's in Hastinapur. So how can he protect Draupadi? But he's all powerful. Therefore, he can maintain his vow. So he has this quality of determination. This is one of his glories. In the same connection, there's another quality of Krishna is that he is Sarvagya. So what does that mean? He knows everything, exactly. So there's a wonderful pastime in the Mahabharat. Actually, the background is as follows, that when the Pandavas were going into exile, Yudhishthira, he wanted to serve the rishis and the ascetics who loved him and who wanted to go in the forest and live with the Pandavas. But he had no facility. So he asked Daumya Rishi, what to do about this? I want to provide. I want to be able to feed the ascetics. I want to be able to feed the rishis. So Daumya Rishi, he said, then you should worship the sun god. The sun god provides, the sun god provides rain. He evaporates the water, forms clouds, provides rain. And through rain and sun, all the vegetation grows, all the food is available. So you worship the sun god. So what Yudhishthira Maharaj did was, for several days, he fasted, and he was standing in the Ganga, and he was offering prayers to the sun god. So the sun god was very pleased. So then he provided a copper plate. It's called the Akshay Patra. This is a special plate. Whatever food you took from this plate, it would produce more and more food, unlimitedly. Until Draupadi ate from that. When Draupadi took her meal, the plate would not provide any more food. So he went into exile, and they were feeding hundreds, thousands of rishis as desired. Now on one occasion, Duryodhana, he received Durvasa Muni very nicely. As we know, Durvasa Muni, he can get very angry. So Duryodhana took special care to serve Durvasa Muni. And Durvasa Muni was pleased, and he offered a boon to Duryodhana. So the evil-minded Duryodhana, he decided that he would get the Pandavas into trouble. So he said to Durvasa Muni, you go and visit the Pandavas. After they have eaten, they will receive you very nicely. So what happened? Durvasa arrives with 10,000 disciples. And then what to do? Draupadi had already eaten. The plate was not going to give any more food, so it's a dilemma. So at this point, the Durvasa Muni, his disciples, they go and take bath. And they're ready for a slap-up feast. And then Draupadi's panicking what to do. So Krishna, he's Sarvagya. He's omniscient, he knows everything. So just at that point, he arrives. And what does he do? He looks at the pots, and he sees a little bit of vegetable, pops it in his mouth, and he's satisfied. Yasmin tushte jagat tushtam. When Krishna is satisfied, the whole world is satisfied. This is explained in the 4th canto. Yatataror mula nasichanina tripyanti tat skanda bujo pasaka. Panopaharachcha yatendriyanam sarva... was it? Sarvarhanam achyuteja. Tataiva sarvarhanam achyuteja. Shishirada Gokulanda ki jai. Now, so Narad Muni, he's speaking to the Prachetas, and he says that if we water the root of the tree, then the whole tree becomes nourished. And if we provide food to the stomach, then all the senses and limbs are satisfied. So in the same way, we simply worship Krishna, and everyone's satisfied. So just by Krishna taking this bit of vegetable, he became satisfied, and all the sages, all the disciples of Durvasa Muni, they all became satisfied. Then they became worried. Because Durvasa Muni, he knew the power of devotees. Why? Because he had already experienced, he tried to chastise Ambarish Maharaj, and then the Sudarshan Chakra had chased him around the universe. So he became fearful. We don't want to go back to visit the Pandavas because we're not going to be able to eat anything. So they disappeared. And that way, Pandavas were out of trouble. So these are some of the qualities. So Sarvagya, another quality of Krishna. Another one is gratitude. Krishna is grateful. Kritagya. Now the example given is that Draupadi, just by chanting, Hey Govinda, then Lord Krishna became indebted. And that indebtedness increased. He felt more and more indebted to Draupadi. So in this connection, Srila Prabhupada says, if we just say, "Hey Krishna, hey Govinda," then Krishna becomes indebted. So let's try it. Hey Krishna! Hey Govinda! So now Krishna owes. So think how much, if we chant Hare Krishna our entire life, Krishna will be indebted. So these are some of the qualities of Krishna. They're described in the Mahabharat. Well, actually they're there if we can see. We have to have the eyes to see. Now let's look at a different angle. The different rasas. There's a chapter of Nectar Devotion on Sakya Ras. And in that chapter it's mentioned how the Pandavas, they have this relationship with Krishna. Sakya Ras, which means friendship. Friendship means what? It means intimacy. Intimacy means what? It means Krishna's controlled. So there's one characteristic of devotional service called Shri Krishna Akarshani. That means Krishna is controlled by bhakti. It's actually only, this aspect is only present in Prema Bhakti. It's not there in Bhava Bhakti, and it's not there in Sadhana Bhakti. But if we attain the platform of Prema, then Krishna is controlled. So the example Rupa Goswami gives is the Pandavas, how Krishna was always controlled by the Pandavas. And he helped them in so many ways. We had the pastime of how he helped Draupadi, how he helped Arjuna. Arjuna was not the strongest warrior. Bhishma was stronger. Karna was stronger. Drona, they could have defeated. But Arjuna, Krishna is Naran, Narayan, Rishi. Because Arjuna has that relationship, special relationship with Krishna, he was invincible. Like this. And when Krishna went to try and convince, he tried the nice way to convince Duryodhana to stop the fight, to not have a war. And when the nice talk didn't work, he said, the Pandavas, they treat Dhritarashtra as worshipable elder. All we're asking is 5 villages, 1 for each Pandava. But still, he said, I will not give them enough land to drive a pin. That's Duryodhana, very arrogant. So when the nice talk stopped, Krishna said, hard talking, he said, you will never defeat Bhima when he's angry. How can you defeat Arjuna and Krishna? They are Narayan. He gave a warning. And actually, practically, everyone agreed with Krishna. Dushasana, he agreed with Krishna. Dhritarashtra agreed. Gandhari agreed. Bhishma agreed. Drona agreed. Duryodhana did not agree. Some of Duryodhana's brothers agreed, but Duryodhana did not agree. Karna did not agree. And then they had a plot. They decided, we will arrest Krishna. Such folly. So, as they were discussed in the assembly, it was too much for Duryodhana, and he couldn't take it anymore. So he made a sign, and then all these soldiers rushed into the assembly hall with swords, ready to arrest Krishna. And what did he do? He displayed his universal form. See, how foolish. So Krishna, as soon as in the Mahabharat, it said he's an ordinary person. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it said, Kritavan kila karmani saharamena kejava atimarchani bhagavan guda kapata manushaha. That Krishna and Balaram, they appeared in disguise, guda kapata manusha, which means they're just like ordinary human beings. But actually, atimarchani bhagavan, they perform superhuman feats. So in the Mahabharata we see Krishna, he's ordinary in some sense, but then at times he shows his godhood. He shows his omniscience. He shows his universal form. So the devotees, it's simple to understand who is the actual hero of Mahabharata. It's Krishna. And although he appears to have a subsidiary role, in actuality Krishna is the center. As is mentioned here in this purport, the purpose of Mahabharata is to bring people to Bhagavad Gita, to surrender to Krishna. So we see how Krishna as the messenger, he reveals the universal form. So we're discussing Sakyaras. So actually it's mentioned that of all the devotees outside of Vrindavan, the best Sakya is who? Arjuna, yes. Therefore there's little description of Arjuna's form and Arjuna's love for Krishna. Actually, it's explained that Arjuna had the similar bodily features to Krishna. Therefore, it naturally led to a deep relationship of friendship. So, friendship, and in the case of Kunti, the relationship is Vatsalya Ras. She's protective of Krishna. Now, in the pastime where Shishupal was blaspheming, actually, was he blaspheming? In a sense he was, but in another sense he wasn't. It was counted as namabas. He got liberation from this, so it's not really blasphemy. But anyway, when Shishupal was criticizing Krishna, then the Pandavas, they were burning with anger. So this is described in the Nectar of Devotion, how anger is a secondary rasa. So at that point, the anger becomes prominent, and the Sakya ras becomes secondary. It's described it's actually in the northern division. The Nectar of Devotion is divided into 4 divisions. It begins with the eastern division, then the southern, then the western, and the northern. In the northern division, the secondary rasas are described. And there's also a description of how, when there are many rasas together, sometimes the secondary rasa becomes prominent. It becomes the angi, the body. The primary rasa becomes the anga. So when anger becomes prominent, Sakya rasa is there, but anger is prominent, but it's not a contradiction. So in that anger, it's described how the Pandavas, they were exhibiting various symptoms. One example, now there's a chapter called the Sattvika Bhavs. We're now in the southern division of the Nectar of Devotion. The Sattvika Bhavs, the Anubhavs, the Vibhavs, the Vyabhichari Bhavs, and the Sthai Bhav. There's 5 chapters. So Sattvika Bhav, Prabhupada describes that as existential ecstasy. It's the life airs become disturbed. There are 8 of them. I always ask, every time I give class, if I talk about this topic, I always ask, what are the 8? So far, no one's managed to give me, the audience has never managed to give all 8. Actually, I can't give all 8 either. Does anyone know any of them? No, that's the life air is disturbed by these 8. Or these 8 are symptoms. Okay, we'll give you some. Perspiration is one, yes. Sveda. No, that's not one of them. There's only 8 of them. Yes, hair standing on end. And no, that's not. Foam's not one of them. Tears, yes. So in the Gurvastika, there's 3 mentioned. Romancha, Kampa, Shru, Taranga, Bhajo. Romancha, hair standing on end. Kampa, shaking. And Ashru. Another one, Stamba, stunned. When Ashvatthama hurled his Brahmastra, Arjuna became stunned in ecstasy. This is Sattvika Bhav. When Krishna showed the universal form to Arjuna, his hairs stood on end. This is Sattvika Bhav. We were talking about Shishupal. So when Shishupal was criticizing Krishna, Bhima, he was crying with anger. That's Sattvika Bhav. And Sahadev, he was shaking with anger. That's Sattvika Bhav. Now, there's another type of mention. I mentioned Vyabhichari Bhav. So in the science of rasa, the Sthai Bhav is like the ocean, is the permanent rasa. And then the waves on the ocean, they're called the Vyabhichari Bhavs. And there's 33 of them, I think, or 31. One of them is called Aurgriya. It's like the word Ugra, and it means violence. One can be violent in ecstasy. So Sahadev, he experienced this Vyabhichari Bhav when Shishupal was blaspheming Krishna. He desired, he said, I will kick on his head with my left foot. Sahadev is thinking this. So he's full of anger, he's shaking, Sattvika Bhav, and then this Vyabhichari Bhav, like a little wave that augments the rasa. He's going to get violent and he's going to kick on Shishupal's head. These are some examples. So we see let's go back to the Ashta Sattvika Bhavs. We missed a few. One is Vaivarnya, that is, one becomes pale. And Pralaya. Yeah. Is that one of them? I can't remember. May well have been. Goosebumps, which is hair standing on end, yes. Laughing. Laughing is an anubhav. It's like, this is verse, Ivamvrata svapriyanama kitja jitanuraga chita uta chitaya Asajjato roditi raudi gayachun madhavan richati lokabhya. Various sattvic anubhavs are given. This is the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Like dancing, so bhaya, was it bhaya avrita. Un madhavan richati lokabhya. To be indifferent to the public. This is one of the Vyabhachari bhavs. And dancing, this is anubhav. Laughing is anubhav. Gaiety, singing is anubhav. So that's something else. There are so many different features, but they're all there. So we're discussing this. So the point I was making is, when we read the Mahabharat, what do we read? Are we into the mundane aspect? We want the politics, the economics. It's a good plot as well, isn't it? The Mahabharat's got such a wonderful plot. There's all this, I was mentioning how Krishna is partial to the devotees, how he's protecting Arjuna. So there's some of the plots that took place. We have the example of the killing of Jayadratha. This is an example of is it Bhakta Surit? Krishna is partial to his devotee. Actually, there's several examples. One is Bhishma. When Bhishma was when Bhishma was fighting in the battle, Krishna, he made a promise: I will not use weapons. Now, why did he make this promise? It's given in the Nectar of Devotion. The reason is because he loved Bhishma so much. Krishna loved Bhishma so much that he could not bring himself to use weapons against Bhishma. This is Bhakta Surit. He's favorable to his devotees. Another example of one of Krishna's qualities is compassion, or his great mercy. So when Bhishma was lying on the bed of arrows, he went into ecstasy, Bhishma, when he saw Krishna. Now the reason for that, we were talking about the different types of the sattvika bhav, the anubhav, and so forth. One of them is called vibhav, which means the cause of love. And one aspect of that is udipana, which means the stimulus. So what is Bhishma's relationship? It is dasyaras. So what causes dasyaras to manifest? What is the stimulus? One of the stimuli is mercy. When someone is in dasyaras, when they contemplate the great mercy of the Lord, they go into ecstasy. So Bhishma is this example. Because he was thinking, I was trying to kill Krishna, and now, at the time of my death, I want him to appear before me, and he has given me this great mercy. He's appeared before me. And that put him in ecstasy. And also, in connection with this pastime, this demonstrates another aspect of Krishna, karuna, compassion. He had so much compassion for Bhishma. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada explains, devotees, they're not worshipping Krishna, they're worshipping Krishna's compassionate nature. So this pastime, it's like Krishna, he actually said that Krishna forgot who he was. Out of compassion for Bhishma, he forgot who he was. We went off track. Let's go back to Jayadratha. I'll just tell this lovely pastime. So the beginning of the pastime is as follows. The background is Abhimanyu. He had special knowledge of how to break what's known as the chakra vyuha, the circle formation. So in the Battle of Kurukshetra, each day the warriors would line up in various formations, various tactics. It's like chess, how to defeat the opposition. So, of course, Krishna knew how to break the chakra vyuha. Arjuna knew. And Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna, also knew. Because when he was in the womb, he heard Arjuna talking about this. He was actually explaining to Subhadra the chakra vyuha and how to break it. So, apart from Krishna, Arjuna and Abhimanyu, the other warriors didn't know. So one day of the battle, Dronacharya, he arranged the Kauravas in the chakra vyuha, and this was causing havoc. And Yudhisthira was freaking out, so to speak. He didn't know what to do. Pandava armies were being routed. Now Arjuna knew how to break the chakra, but he was elsewhere fighting. So what to do? So he asked Abhimanyu, he's only 16 years old. He says to him, you can break this. And Abhimanyu said, he was in ecstasy, I want to do service. But he said, there's a problem. I know how to break in, but I have not learned how to break out. So if the chakra closes in on me, I'm dead meat, so to speak. So Yudhisthira, he says, don't worry, you break in, all of us will right behind you, we'll all break in with you, and then we'll fight our way out. Now there's a background, we're mentioning how the plot is so exciting, the Mahabharat plot. So at this point, let's divert to another story. Jayadratha, he worshipped Lord Shiva, and he wanted a boon. He could kill the Pandavas. Lord Shiva said, I cannot give you this boon, but I will give you the boon that you can check each of the Pandavas in battle, with the exception of Arjuna. So while they were fighting, Abhimanyu, he broke into the Chakra Vyuha, and then Jayadratha was there, and he used his boon, and he stopped each of the Pandavas from breaking in, from joining, following Abhimanyu. So then the chakra closed. Abhimanyu was alone. What to do? It's a wonderful pastime. He's so brave. He fought all these Maharatis. 7 of them ganged up on him. And finally, they defeated him through foul means. They broke the rules of Kshatriya fighting. Because Abhimanyu he came off his chariot. He was fighting on the ground. And they were still on their chariots. And they killed Abhimanyu. So when Arjuna heard this, he made a vow, terrible vow. He said, tomorrow I will kill Jayadratha. And if I fail, I will enter the fire. So the next day, the whole Kaurava tactic was to keep Jayadratha alive, because they understood if we can get Arjuna to break his vow, he will enter the fire, then practically speaking, we've won the war. So as they were fighting, the whole day, actually Dronacharya, he made a sophisticated arrangement that is called the needle formation. So all the warriors are lined up in like a needle, one after the other. And who's at the back? Jayadratha. They're all there to protect Jayadratha. So in order to get to Jayadratha, Arjuna would have to defeat all the other warriors standing in between him and Jayadratha. And also there was a lotus vyuha to protect the needle. Then there was a cart vyuha to suck in warriors who were foolish enough to attack and to capture them. And then there was a semicircle was arranged of Kauravas who would not retreat under any circumstance. They were just there like pillars to provide firepower. So this is what Arjuna was up against. So as he's fighting, then, the clock's ticking, the sun's going down, and he's accomplished so much, but there's still all these great warriors like Drona, Duryodhana, Karna. They're all still between Arjuna and Jayadratha. What to do? It's getting late. He's not going to manage it. So that's the point when Krishna used his potency. He displayed his godhood. He took his Sudarshan chakra and he created an illusion that the sun had set. So in the Kauravas, Jai! Arjuna is going to enter the fire, and they're celebrating. Just at that point, Krishna says to Arjuna, put the arrow on your bow. Actually, he told him, I want you to fire the arrow, cut off Jayadratha's head, and make it fly through the sky and land on the lap of his father. Because his father had a special boon. His father wanted the boon that whoever killed my son, whoever made my son's head fall on the ground, he will die. So what happened was, Krishna, he withdrew the illusion. The sun appears. The Kauravas are suddenly, what's going on here? Arjuna fires the arrow. Off comes the head of Jayadratha, lands on the lap of the father of Jayadratha, drops on the ground, and therefore Jayadratha's father also died. It's a nice pastime. So these are pastime. Anyway, so the plot's very nice. Now the Bhagavatam plot, it doesn't have the same degree of, well, maybe it does if we have the eyes to see, but it doesn't look as sophisticated. But we don't care because we're not in it for the plot. We're in it for the devotion. And we know Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. It is for the Vaishnavas. The Srimad Bhagavatam. So we've run out of time. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your time. I'd probably take a comment or question.